आज की इस चर्चा में स्वागत है। हमारे पास ना राजा भरत की कहानी वाला एक बहुत ही दिलचस्प ऑडियो स्रोत है।
हाँ।
ये कहानी दिखाती है कि कैसे मतलब एक छोटी सी दिखने वाली आसक्ति, एक अटैचमेंट जिंदगी की पूरी दिशा ही बदल सकती है और कई जन्मों तक उसका असर रहता है। तो चलिए इस स्रोत की परतों को खोलते हैं आज।
हाँ बिल्कुल। और ये स्रोत सिर्फ कहानी नहीं है, बल्कि ये कर्तव्य, वैराग्य, मोह, मतलब वो जो गहरी अटैचमेंट होती है,
मोह
और कर्म का सिद्धांत, आत्मज्ञान, इन सब चीजों को ना बड़ी गहराई से छूता है।
सही कहा। और
इस स्रोत से एक बात साफ उभरती है कि आध्यात्मिक रास्ते पर अगर जरा सी भी चूक हो जाए तो उसके परिणाम कितने बड़े हो सकते हैं। तो हमारा मकसद यही है कि इस स्रोत से जो मुख्य बातें हैं, जो शिक्षाएं हैं, उनको समझें।
तो कहानी शुरू होती है राजा भरत से। वो राजपाट छोड़ चुके हैं, गंडकी नदी के किनारे तपस्या में लगे।
हाँ बिल्कुल, शांत चित्त से ईश्वर में ध्यान लगाए हुए।
सब ठीक चल रहा है, लेकिन फिर एक दिन वो देखते हैं कि एक गर्भवती हिरणी है, शेर से डरकर नदी में कूद जाती है और मर जाती है। लेकिन मरने से पहले उसके पेट से एक बच्चा निकलता है और राजा भरत उसे बचा लेते हैं। स्रोत से बड़े मतलब करुणा भाव से दिखाता है। और
यहीं पर ना करुणा और मोह के बीच की वो बहुत बारीक सी लाइन दिखती है।
देखिए, जीव की रक्षा करना तो संत का कर्तव्य है ही, स्रोत भी यही कहता है।
बिल्कुल।
पर मुश्किल तब शुरू हुई जब ये करुणा धीरे धीरे गहरे मोह में बदल गई। स्रोत इस बात पर जोर देता है कि कैसे यही मोह उनके पतन का कारण बना। शायद वो कुछ दिन रखकर उसे वापस झुंड में छोड़ देते हो तो ठीक रहता, पर ऐसा हुआ नहीं।
सही बात है। वो उस हिरण के बच्चे से इतने ज्यादा जुड़ गए, मतलब इतने ज्यादा कि भगवान का ध्यान तो जैसे हट ही गया।
हाँ, पूरी तरह से।
स्रोत बताता है कि हर समय बस उसी की चिंता, ये खाया या नहीं, कहीं कोई जानवर ना आ जाए। यहाँ तक कि कहते हैं कि चांद में भी उन्हें हिरण का बच्चा ही दिखता था।
समय आया तब भी मन में उसी हिरण का ख्याल था।
और कर्म और चेतना का नियम, जैसा इस स्रोत में भी समझाया गया है, वो यही कहता है कि मृत्यु के समय आपकी चेतना, आपका मन जिस भाव में, जिस चीज में अटका होता है ना, अगला जन्म वैसा ही मिलता है।
अच्छा।
इसीलिए इतनी कठोर तपस्या की उन्होंने, पर अंत समय में हिरण का ध्यान होने से अगला जन्म हिरण का मिला। स्रोत इस नियम को बहुत साफ दिखाता है।
लेकिन कमाल की बात यह है, जैसा स्रोत बताता है, कि हिरण बनने के बाद भी उन्हें अपने पिछले जन्म की सारी बातें याद रहती हैं।
हाँ, ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है।
उन्हें बड़ा पछतावा होता है। वो वापस उसी आश्रम के पास आ जाते हैं, वहीं रहते हैं, तपस्या करते हैं, बस सूखे पत्ते खाकर।
मतलब वो ज्ञान, वो चेतना कहीं गई नहीं थी और शरीर बदल गया था।
बिल्कुल।
और फिर जब वो हिरण का शरीर छोड़ते हैं तो उनका जन्म एक ज्ञानी ब्राह्मण परिवार में होता है। नाम फिर से भरत ही रहता है, पर अब वो जड़ भरत कहलाते हैं। हाँ, जड़ भरत। और ये जन्म बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। स्रोत के हिसाब से पिछले जन्मों के पुण्य के कारण वो जन्म से ही ब्रह्म ज्ञानी है।
जन्म से ही।
हाँ, पर पिछली गलती से ऐसा सबक लिया उन्होंने कि अब किसी भी तरह के लगाव से बचने के लिए वो जानबूझकर जड़, मतलब मूर्ख, पागल, बहरे जैसा बर्ताव करते हैं।
अच्छा, जानबूझकर।
हाँ, ताकि कोई उनसे स्नेह ना कर बैठे, कोई अटैचमेंट ना हो जाए और वो फिर से उसी चक्कर में ना फंस जाए।
समझ गया। तो बचपन से ही दुनियादारी से एकदम कटे कटे से रहते हैं।
बिल्कुल।
पिता उन्हें गायत्री मंत्र वगैरह सिखाने की कोशिश करते हैं, पर वो जानबूझकर गलत उच्चारण करते हैं। पिता की मृत्यु हो जाती है तो भाई लोग उन्हें पागल समझकर बचा खुचा रूखा सूखा खाना दे देते हैं। खेतों में काम करवाते हैं, लोग मजाक उड़ाते हैं, अपमान करते हैं, पर स्रोत ये दिखाता है कि वो सब कुछ चुपचाप सह लेते हैं।
हाँ, वो इसे शरीर का प्रारब्ध मानते हैं, मतलब भाग्य।
सही। और
यह स्रोत एक आत्मज्ञानी की स्थिति दिखाता है, देहाभिमान का पूरी तरह खत्म हो जाना।
देहाभिमान मतलब
शरीर को ही मैं मानने की जो भूल होती है ना, वो खत्म। उनके लिए मान अपमान, सुख दुख, सर्दी गर्मी, सब एक बराबर। वो बाहरी दुनिया से जैसे एकदम कटे हुए अपने आत्म स्वरूप में ही मग्न रहते हैं।
फिर एक और घटना होती है। एक डाकुओं का सरदार होता है, उसकी कोई मन्नत पूरी होती है पुत्र प्राप्ति की।
अच्छा।
तो वो देवी को नरबलि चढ़ाना चाहता है। उसके सेवक किसी हट्टे कट्टे आदमी को ढूंढते हुए जड़ भरत को पकड़ लाते हैं। उन्हें नहलाते हैं, नए कपड़े पहनाते हैं, बलि की पूरी तैयारी।
और जैसे ही वो सरदार बलि देने के लिए तलवार उठाता है,
देवी भद्रकाली स्वयं प्रकट हो जाती है।
स्रोत बताता है। और वो उन डाकुओं का ही संहार कर देती हैं। ये दिखाता है कि एक निर्दोष ब्रह्मज्ञानी महापुरुष का अपमान या उसे हानि पहुंचाना, ये स्वयं देवीय शक्ति भी सहन नहीं करती।
और जड़ भरत,
उन पर तो कोई असर ही नहीं। वो इस घटना से भी वैसे ही निर्लिप्त रहते हैं जैसे कुछ हुआ ही ना हो। और वहां से चुपचाप चल पड़ते हैं।
गजब है। तो वहां से जाते हुए उन्हें राजा रहुगढ़ के कहार पकड़ लेते हैं।
हाँ, राजा रहुगढ़ पालकी में बैठकर कपिल मुनि से ज्ञान लेने जा रहे थे और उनका एक कहार कम पड़ गया था।
तो उन्होंने जड़ भरत को पकड़ लिया पालकी उठाने के लिए। अब जड़ भरत तो जमीन देखकर चलते हैं ताकि कोई कीड़ा मकोड़ा पैर के नीचे ना आ जाए।
अहिंसा।
हाँ, तो इससे पालकी बार बार हिलती है, डगमगाती है। राजा को गुस्सा आ जाता है। वो पालकी से मुंह निकालकर उन्हें ताना मारता है, अरे मोटे, बड़ा थका हुआ लगता है, अभी तो थोड़ा ही चला है।
और यहीं पर, जैसा स्रोत्र में विस्तार से बताया गया है, जड़ भरत पहली बार अपना मौन तोड़ते हैं।
हाँ, यहीं पर।
और उनका जो उपदेश है राजा रहुगढ़ को, वो इस पूरी कहानी का सार है। समझ
क्या कहते हैं वो
राजा को समझाते हैं कि आत्मा और शरीर अलग अलग है। ये मोटापन, पतलापन, थकान, कष्ट, ये सब शरीर के धर्म हैं, आत्मा के नहीं। आत्मा तो ना मोटी होती है, न पतली, न थकती है, न कष्ट पाती है।
बिल्कुल।
वो तो एक है, शुद्ध है।
बिल्कुल।
और ये राजा, प्रजा, मालिक, सेवक, ये सब तो दुनिया के व्यवहार हैं, सांसारिक रिश्ते हैं। ये परमार्थ सत्य नहीं है।
सही बात है।
असली बंधन और असली मुक्ति तो मन में होती है। मन ही सब कराता है।
जड़ भरत की ये ज्ञान भरे शब्द सुन के राजा रहुगढ़ तो एकदम मतलब हैरान रह जाता है।
हाँ, उसे झटका लगता है।
वो फौरन पालकी से कूदकर उनके पैरों में गिर पड़ता है, अपने अज्ञान के लिए, अपने अहंकार के लिए माफी मांगता है। वो पहचान लेता है कि ये कोई साधारण कहार नहीं, बल्कि कोई बहुत पहुंचे हुए महात्मा है, अवधूत हैं।
और वो उनसे और ज्ञान देने की, इस रहस्य को और समझाने की प्रार्थना करता है।
राजा का ये जो बदलाव है, ये दिखाता है कि सच्चा ज्ञान मिलते ही अहंकार कैसे खत्म हो जाता है ना।
बिल्कुल। जड़ भरत की जो शिक्षाएं हैं, जो श्रोतों में हैं, वो यही प्रेरणा देती हैं कि शरीर के भाव से ऊपर उठो, अपने असली आत्मस्वरूप को पहचानो। ज्ञानी नहीं बन जाता, आत्म अनुभव सबसे जरूरी है।
तो ये कहानी वाकई सोचने पे मजबूर करती है कि क्या हम भी अक्सर किसी के बाहरी रूप को देखकर या उसके व्यवहार को देखकर, जैसे जड़ भरत का वो पागलपन का नाटक था,
हाँ,
उससे किसी की असली योग्यता या उसके अंदर के ज्ञान का गलत अंदाजा लगा लेते हैं।
हाँ बिल्कुल। और ये भी कि दुनिया में रहते हुए, अपने सारे कर्तव्य निभाते हुए, स्नेह रखते हुए भी उस बहुत ही महीन रेखा को कैसे पहचाना जाए।
कौन सी रेखा?
जहां स्नेह मोह में बदल जाता है, अटैचमेंट बन जाता है और हमें अपने असली लक्ष्य से भटका देता है।
ये तो बहुत सोचने वाली बात है।
शायद आज की इस भागदौड़ भरी जिंदगी में, जहां हर पल हमारा ध्यान खींचने वाली इतनी सारी चीजें हैं, हम सब अनजाने में किसी न किसी हिरण के बच्चे से बंधे हुए हैं।
हो सकता है
ये कहानी इसी विवेक को, इसी समझ को जगाने की एक प्रेरणा है।
Imagine this, a king, powerful, wealthy, everything you could possibly want, and he gives it all up. Walks away from the kingdom, the palaces, his family, all for spiritual enlightenment.
A huge commitment.
Huge.
Yeah.
He's deep into his practices, really focused. But then something small, almost incidental, trips him up. Not some big temptation, but, well, a baby deer.
It's such a powerful story, isn't it? And what's really striking, listening to this old audio recording, is how relevant it feels today.
Right.
It shows that on any path, whether it's spiritual or, professional growth, learning anything.
Yeah.
It's not just the big leaps, it's those subtle attachments, the small things we don't even notice sometimes that can really steer us off course.
Exactly. Welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into the story of King Virat using this fascinating audio recording, my audiojbvocal.mp3 as our source. We'll follow his journey from King Virat to this renunciate figure, Rajarshi Virat, and then to someone quite different, Jad Bharat.
And our goal here, as we explore this, is really to pull out the insights that resonate now for anyone trying to learn, to understand things more deeply.
Right.
We're talking about attachment, what it looks like, how it hooks us. We're looking at how progress isn't always a straight line.
Definitely not.
And questions about who we really are underneath it all, and the kind of unexpected challenges that can pop up, even for people who seem really advanced. There's a lot here, I think, that offers valuable perspective for anyone on a journey.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Virat makes this huge renunciation. Gives up the kingdom, his queens, his subjects, everything. He goes off to live by the Gandaki River.
And the audio paints a picture of intense discipline, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Bathing 3 times a day, living super simply in a hut made of leaves, constant devotion, just using what nature provides.
Yeah.
Deeply absorbed.
It shows that powerful drive, that yearning for something more than just the material world, a sense that, worldly success isn't the be-all and end-all.
But then comes the twist.
Right. And it highlights something crucial. Even with the best intentions, you have to be mindful. Your focus can shift in ways you don't expect, leading to, significant consequences.
So this is where the deer comes in. A pregnant deer drinking at the river. A lion roars, she gets startled, tries to jump the river.
Oh, tragic.
Yeah, the fawn falls into the water as she leaps, and she actually dies on the other bank. Bharat sees this whole thing.
And his first instinct is compassion.
Exactly. He feels he has to save this helpless fawn, so he wades in and rescues it.
And initially that seems perfectly right. It's dharma, protecting life, non-harming. It's a natural human response to suffering. But the audio is clever here. It subtly shows how this righteous act slowly morphs. Compassion starts to turn into something else, attachment.
And that's the absolute core of this part of the story, isn't it? What starts noble becomes a hindrance.
A major one.
The audio describes him becoming incredibly fond of the fawn, always holding it, finding the softest grass for it, worrying constantly. He even calls it son. His main focus becomes keeping this little deer safe.
That shift is so key. It tells us that progress, spiritual or otherwise, isn't just about giving things up outwardly. It's about managing those internal ties, those heartstrings.
Right.
Even feelings that seem pure, like love or compassion, if they become possessive, if we cling too hard, they can pull us away from our larger goals. Our focus narrows.
And you see the impact on Bharat immediately.
Yeah.
His meditation, it goes out the window. His mind is just filled with the deer.
Constantly.
The audio gives these images. He sees the fawn's reflection in the moon, notices its footprints, feels anxious whenever it wanders off. He's totally consumed by it. His whole routine just falls apart.
It's a powerful illustration of why detachment, not coldness, but letting go of that need to cling is often necessary for sustained progress.
Yeah.
Bharat's story shows how even an apparently innocent attachment can become this huge distraction.
And the final consequence is so stark. He's dying. And his very last thoughts are all about the deer.
Fixed on it.
And the audio is explicit. Because his consciousness was filled with the deer at that moment, his next birth is as a deer. It's almost like a be careful what you focus on message, especially at critical moments. Our thoughts shape our reality.
Exactly. Now, whether one takes the rebirth literally or metaphorically, the message is potent. Our dominant thoughts, our deepest attachments, they really do mold our future experiences, our tendencies. It shows the power of our mental state, especially during transitions like death.
But it doesn't end there. Even as a deer, the story continues. He remembers. He knows he was King Bharat, and he understands why he's now a deer.
Which is incredible, isn't it? That continuity of consciousness.
Yeah. So the audio says, as a deer, he deliberately avoids other deer. He goes back to the Gandaki River area. And get this, he only eats dry, fallen leaves.
To avoid attachment again, even to fresh grass.
Seems like it. He doesn't want any new attachments. And he keeps meditating, even in his deer body, standing in the river.
That persistence is remarkable. It speaks to the resilience of, the soul, or that core consciousness, and how deeply ingrained spiritual discipline can become. The lessons learned, they carry over even into really challenging, unexpected forms.
And his life as a deer ends there, meditating in the river, focused on the divine. So a huge detour, but the journey isn't over.
Not at all, because next,
He's born as Jad Bharat into a family of learned Brahmins.
Yeah.
And the audio tells us he's born with this innate spiritual knowledge carrying over from his previous efforts.
which points to that idea of karmic continuity, right? His spiritual progress might seem interrupted, it might slow down, but it accumulates. It bears fruit eventually, maybe in future lives.
So as Jad Bharat, right from childhood, he's different. The audio describes him as constantly aware internally of the divine. He's mostly silent. He acts in ways people see as, foolish.
Like he's deliberately off-putting.
Exactly. To avoid forming bonds.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that attachment cycle starting again.
It's a conscious strategy. He learned the hard way about attachment, and now he's building walls, essentially, to protect his inner focus.
His family, especially his father, who's described as a devoted, knowledgeable Brahmin, tries to teach him the usual rituals, the sacred chants.
Standard education for that family.
Right. But the audio says Bharat just resists, deliberately messes things up, seemingly to push them away, avoid that family connection becoming too strong. There's this detail about his father trying for 4 months just to teach him one line of the Gayatri mantra.
And failing.
Completely. Couldn't get him to learn it properly.
It highlights that potential clash, doesn't it? Between societal norms, even loving family expectations, and someone's deep inner spiritual state. Jad Bharat seems to understand that true knowledge isn't just about learning verses or doing rituals, especially if those things tie you tighter to the world he's trying to detach from.
So, after his father dies, and his mother follows the custom of self-immolation, his brothers in the community just write him off. They see him as foolish, maybe even mad. The text uses the word mata.
Completely misunderstood.
Totally. And the audio details how badly he's treated. Given scraps of food, forced to do hard, menial labor cutting grass, mucking out stalls, he faces insults, abuse.
And his reaction?
Nothing. He accepts it all without any reaction.
Because inwardly,
he's somewhere else entirely. Self-realized, absorbed in bliss, completely beyond concepts like honor or dishonor, good treatment or bad. Worldly opinions just don't touch him.
That contrast is stark. What the world sees versus the inner reality. He's found a freedom that external circumstances can't affect. He doesn't need anyone's approval.
And then things take another dramatic turn. There's a local bandit king.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. He wants a son, so he vowed to sacrifice a man to the goddess Bhadrakali. His men capture someone, but that guy escapes.
So they need a replacement. Quickly.
Right. And who do they find wandering around? Jad Bharat. He looks strong, physically fit, and he's silent, passive.
They mistake his detachment for, what, stupidity? Or just perfect victim material?
Exactly. They think he's ideal, they grab him.
It just shows how dangerous judging by appearances can be. His very strategy for inner peace makes him a target.
The audio describes the scene vividly. They tie him up, take him to the temple, bathe him, put garlands on him, offer him food.
Which he accepts.
Accepts it all. No resistance, he's just present. But then, the executioner raises the sword.
And
Bhadrakali herself intervenes. The audio says she becomes enraged that they're trying to kill a Brahma-realized soul. She bursts out of the temple idol and kills the bandits.
Wow, divine intervention.
Seriously?
It sends a powerful message, doesn't it? That there are real consequences for harming or disrespecting someone who's reached that level of spiritual attainment. It suggests a kind of protection, maybe, for those who've transcended the ego. Higher powers are sensitive to this.
So, next chapter in this incredible life, we meet King Rahugana.
Rahugana. And there's a connection here, isn't there?
Yes. The audio points out his kingdom was near where Bharat lived as that deer. Small world, even across lifetimes. Anyway, Rahugana is a powerful king, traveling in his palanquin. He's on his way to learn from the sage Kapila.
Seeking wisdom himself. The irony.
Right. So, one of his palanquin carriers gets sick. They need a replacement. And who do they spot nearby?
Jad Bharat again. Strong-looking guy, doing nothing.
Perfect fit, they think. So they press him into service. But Jad Bharat walks differently. The audio highlights this. He's incredibly careful not to step on any insects or creatures.
Practicing non-violence ahimsa even while carrying a palanquin.
Exactly. But the other carriers are just focused on moving fast. So Jad Bharat's careful, uneven pace makes the palanquin sway and bump.
Which annoys the king.
Big time. Rahugana is irritated by the ride. He starts yelling insults at Jad Bharat.
What kind of things?
Oh, calling him weak, tired, old, saying he's carrying the palanquin carelessly, just berating him.
And Jad Bharat, still silent.
Still silent. The audio tells us his inner perspective. He sees the palanquin, his own body, the king. It's all just temporary stuff made of the same elements, all a product of ignorance. He recognizes Rahugana is speaking from that place of ignorance too.
Rahugana is completely identified with his body, his status as king, his ego is running the show. Jad Bharat's silence comes from this deep detachment from all that superficial stuff. He knows it's illusory.
But finally, Jad Bharat speaks. He responds to Rahugana's insults.
And what does he say?
He drops some serious wisdom. Basically tells Rahugana, look, these ideas of burden and carrier, thin and fat, they apply to the body, not the soul.
The classic distinction.
Exactly. He says true understanding goes beyond these dualities.
This is the turning point where his inner realization comes out. He's directly challenging the king's whole view of reality, introducing these core Vedantic ideas.
He goes on explaining that things like hunger, thirst, pleasure, pain, getting old, those happen to the body, the embodied being. They aren't the experiences of the true self, the soul. And roles like master and servant, they're just based on identifying with the body too. They don't touch the soul's eternal nature. He even gently challenges Rahugana's pride in his own knowledge and power, questioning it from that higher spiritual viewpoint.
He's systematically taking apart the king's ego-based perspective, showing him the difference between the temporary physical world and the permanent, unchanging self. True authority, true understanding comes from realizing that truth.
Then he uses this great analogy. Imagine a pot, he says, with water and rice inside being heated by a fire.
Okay.
Rahugana thinks suffering affects the soul like the fire affects the pot and its contents. But Jad Bharat says, no, that's wrong. That perception comes from identifying with the body, not from real self-knowledge.
That's a brilliant way to put it. It highlights that common mistake, thinking, I am this body, I am these feelings. He's guiding Rahugana towards understanding the soul is distinct from the body's experiences.
He then explains it's the mind, influenced by those three modes, or guna, sattva, rajas, tamas, goodness, passion, ignorance that drives our actions and creates the illusion that the soul is bound.
Ah, the mind again, the key player.
Totally. He says the mind is the cause of both bondage and liberation. If it's attached to worldly desires, you're bound. If it's turned towards the divine, towards devotion, that's the path to freedom.
So liberation isn't about changing the outside world, but transforming the inner world, the mind's attachments and patterns.
Right. He uses another analogy. Desires are like the oil fueling a lamp.
Okay.
When the oil runs out, when desires cease, the flame goes out. Stillness, peace. That's liberation when the mind and senses are absorbed in the divine, beyond the ego's reach. And he hammers home the point. The true self is just a witness. It observes the body and mind doing their thing, but it's not affected. Like watching a movie, you see it all, but you aren't the characters on screen.
These analogies make such abstract ideas much more graspable, don't they? Detachment, liberation, it's all an internal shift.
He wraps up this teaching by saying, real liberation comes when you conquer those 6 inner enemies: lust, anger, greed, delusion, pride, envy, and see the material world for the illusion it is.
That's a pretty comprehensive summary of spiritual wisdom right there. Self-mastery, seeing through illusion, realizing your true nature beyond the body and mind.
And Rahugana's reaction.
How does the king take all this?
It hits him hard. He immediately falls at Jad Bharat's feet, admits his ignorance, acknowledges the sage's greatness. The audio quotes him saying he's terrified, he offended a Brahma Rishi, a knower of the ultimate reality, and begs for forgiveness.
Wow. Complete turnaround.
He recognizes Jad Bharat isn't just some palanquin bearer, he's a hidden master. He even wonders aloud if he might be the great sage Dattatreya or Kapila Dev in disguise.
That surrender is crucial. His pride is shattered by encountering genuine wisdom. It shows how transformative that kind of insight can be when someone is ready to hear it.
Jad Bharat, though, gently corrects him again. He points out that Rahugana's understanding is still a bit superficial. True spiritual knowledge isn't just about intellectual discussion or debate.
It goes beyond words.
Right. He says, yes, the Vedas outline rituals, but those are often for people still caught up in worldly life. The ultimate goal, self-realization, is a direct, transcendental experience.
He's cautioning against mistaking the map for the territory, essentially. Intellectual understanding isn't the same as lived realization.
He clarifies again how the mind, when it's still caught up in those 3 modes, goodness, passion, ignorance, is stuck in duality. It can't grasp the unified, non-dual truth. He repeats how the mind binds the soul through desires and actions.
Reinforcing the main points. The mind as the obstacle, the need to purify it.
And again, emphasizes the soul is just the witness, separate from all the activity of body and mind.
The detached observer, unaffected by the drama.
And his final advice to Rahugana: work diligently, conquer your own mind. And the way to do that is through devotion to a true guru, a genuine spiritual teacher. That's the path to liberation.
That emphasis on practice and guidance is vital, isn't it? It's not just about understanding intellectually. It requires dedicated effort and often the help of someone who's already navigated the path.
So wrapping this up for you, our listener, what are the big takeaways from this deep dive into Bharat's story? Well, first, the danger of attachment, even seemingly good attachments. It's subtle.
And the resilience of the soul, the continuity across lifetimes. Our intentions matter deeply.
And the absolute need for detachment, if you want real progress, spiritual or otherwise. Recognizing that so much of what we identify with our status, our problems, our suffering, is tied to the body and mind, not our true self.
It's ultimately illusory from that perspective, and the story just radiates the power of real spiritual knowledge to transform someone, like we saw with Rahugana.
For the learner, in all of us, this story offers so much insight into just how complex growth can be, the hidden obstacles, the subtle ways we get sidetracked.
It really underscores the value of digging into these kinds of narratives. They show us that even our best intentions need scrutiny, that attachment is tricky, and that real freedom comes from understanding who we truly are beneath it all.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Take a moment and reflect on your own attachments. What are the things, could be people, possessions, ideas, even identities, that you hold on to really tightly? How might those attachments be maybe subtly influencing your own journey of learning, understanding, or growth? What could cultivating a bit more detachment look like for you? And how might that open up a deeper sense of yourself and the world?
Something to really ponder.
मेरे प्यारे बच्चों, यदि तुम सच में अपना उद्धार चाहते हो तो श्रीमद् भागवत की कथाओं को सुनना शुरू करो। और हाँ, इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब जरूर करो और बेल आइकन को ऑल पर सेट कर दो ताकि एक भी कथा छूटे नहीं। Dear children, if you truly seek your salvation, then subscribe now and set the bell to all so that not a single sacred story is missed. Listen to Bhagwat for moksha and inner peace.